comedian, writer, entertainment polyhyphenate, Colton Dunn. Thank you for coming
Hey,
on the show.
yeah, what's up, Alex?
Oh, just living my best quarantine life.
Yeah,
Which begs the first question. I've been trying to kind of just check in on everybody. Are you
sure.
are you okay? Are you doing all right over there? Everybody
Yeah, we're
healthy?
doing good. Everybody's healthy. We're keeping clean, washing hands. It's just my wife and my son here at the house, and we've just been hunkered down for, yeah, I guess almost 4 weeks now.
Yeah, I had that realization today. I've been saying 2 weeks. I realized since the second week, and I'm like, yeah, this is a month now that we've been
Yeah.
doing this.
Excuse me.
Um, how I guess my first question. I mean, you are an actor. How has this impacted what you do for a living?
Well, I guess I haven't really seen too much of the impact yet. The show that I work on, Superstore, was actually just 1 week away from being done shooting the season. So we only missed 1 week of work. And so I was already planning on having this time off. So individually, it hasn't really affected me, but for other actors out there, like this is, was sort of the end of pilot season. A lot of the new shows that people had, friends of mine had either developed and gotten into production or got hired as an actor on. The production just stopped, and those people are just out of work and sort of in a holding pattern. I think much like everybody else, it's just kind of put everybody's life on pause, and there's not really any. Everybody's kind of finding weird little ways. Like I'm still doing voiceover stuff I can do from home, things like that. But table reads, meetings you can obviously do on Zoom and stuff like that. But as far as getting a crew together to go somewhere and shoot at a location, that's just not possible right now.
Definitely not. It is weird. This is I've done a bunch of these episodes in the last now month, and it has been interesting to see how universally depend no matter what type of guest I have on here, how this has impacted everyone's lives in very much the same way. I feel like it really is broken barriers down between the types of work we do and the types of lifestyles we have. We're more or less, if you're not an essential employee, we're kind of doing the same things right now and just figuring it out together.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to tell you mentioned Superstore. We obviously have to talk about that. Um, you are one of the stars of this show, and if I understand it correctly, I think this is one of the first times you have been as a writer on a number of shows in the past. You have
Yeah.
been in a plethora of TV shows. I was looking for some of your credits, but I
Yeah.
think this is one of the first times where it was an ongoing show where you were a member of the main cast. Is
Oh,
that
for sure.
correct?
Yeah, as a series regular, I guess is what that role would be called. And yeah, this is my first show that's gotten picked up. I had done some pilots before previously that had where I would have been a series regular on, but those shows just didn't get picked up to series. But yeah, this is my first show where I'm series regular on. Went to series, and thankfully and luckily enough, it's been going on for a while now.
So, what's the experience been like? I mean, how is it different to be in a starring role on a consistent basis like that versus being in a film or being a recurring character in something?
It's a obviously you just get sort of more exposure, so you get a little bit more recognized. People know what the show is that they recognize you from. When you do a lot of sort of guest starring roles on things, smaller parts, characters in movies, stuff like that, people kind of recognize you, but they think maybe they know you or something. Like they recognize you, like, hey, wait, man, did you used to work at this place that I used to work at, or they, But once you're sort of on this regular show like this, people tend to start to recognize me as Garrett from Superstore, the character that I play.
And how does being a part of an ensemble cast like that really work? I mean, as a work environment, what is your relationship like with the other actors?
Yeah, I mean, well, on our show, it's great. We've had a pretty incredible ensemble cast from the very beginning. We have our text chain and everything. We all been keeping in touch during the quarantine and stuff. So it plays a big part in, I think, the success of the show and what it's like to actually work on the show, because everybody there really is, our friends, and we know each other's families and kids and everything like that. So, I think it plays a huge part, the ensemble element of our show, especially. And it's very helpful that outside of the show, we also are a pretty good ensemble.
Does having that type of personal dynamic and relationship, with your co-stars, do you feel that resonates into the final product on screen, or are
Yeah, I
those
think
two
so.
worlds completely separate?
Oh, I think that definitely resonates. I don't think I think it would be impossible not to. When you're obviously, a show like this is so much about that ensemble group of people who are working at the store and how they interact. Garrett's interactions with Jonah, but my relationship with Ben Feldman is fairly similar to the one that I have with Jonah as Garrett. And so that stuff all plays. There'll be stuff that we'll do to each other, things that'll happen on set, interactions that we'll have that, maybe one of the writers overhears or one of us tells one of the writers about it. And then that sort of interaction shows up in a script later down the line. So there's definitely it's a very thin line between the ensemble on screen and the ensemble off screen.
Do you find that's common or typical of these types of programs, these kind of ensemble sitcoms where people do bond like that, or is it the opposite
Well,
often? Is it contentious?
I mean, well, to be honest, again, this is the first show that I've done, or that we've done 5 seasons now, and so I've never been in a situation like that to compare it to another situation like that. But from experience, it does kind of break down into different ways. Sometimes you do have something sort of like what we have here, where it's, very much an ensemble cast and everybody gets along. But then you have other situations where that's not the case. Maybe the cast doesn't necessarily get along as much. It really is, more looked at as a job, and they just kind of show up, they do their part, and they take off. And there's not really a right or a wrong. It's whatever works for the group to keep the group together, I think, long enough to make the product that's good. So if it's punching out a good product, whatever the process is, I think is an effective one.
There's a lot of different ways to make that sausage, I guess, so
Sure.
to speak.
For sure.
You've done a ton of writing on different programs. It seems like. Was there a side of it that you prefer? Do you prefer being on screen, or do you prefer working on scripts?
I mean, I like it all, but obviously on screen you get paid more, so that's cool. But writing is something that I've always done, and that's kind of what got me was my in sort of into the comedy work world, was writing. So I always love to write. And if I can write something that I also perform, that's also great. But I really just enjoy being in the room. I enjoy being on set. Both aspects of that process and development really excite me.
You mentioned writing being kind of your door in to entertainment, but what was that like broader path like? I mean, like, at what point did you realize that you wanted to pursue entertainment as your career, and what were the steps on that ladder that you took?
Yeah. Well, pretty early on in high school, I think I decided I wanted to do comedy, just because it was so much more fun than everything else that I was doing. And so the steps that I kind of took then was just sort of, kind of the, what you see in front of your face is what you can achieve. So the first step was there was a theater called Comedy Sports that I really thought was funny in Minneapolis, so I made it my goal to try to take classes there and get into that company. I did that. And after that, maybe I'll take a trip to New York, and I went out there and I saw some people doing comedy out there, so then it was my goal to move out to New York and do comedy out there. The steps, just kind of progressively, I think doing comedy at a progressively more professional level, and doing it because I love to do it, enjoyed doing it. And, just kind of letting it sort of follow its own trajectory. Unfortunately, with this kind of business, a lot of it, you know, you're not in control of as far as getting work. It's other people, so you just kind of have to sort of keep your eyes forward. Keep working on what you're doing. Hone your own comedy and hope that somebody takes notice and wants to bring that into the fold. And then, once you get your foot in the door, you just try to execute the best you can.
You spoke about getting work kind of being in other people's kind of it's something that's in other people's hands. Well, I mean, what is it going on an audition like that feel like?
Like, what does it feel like just to go on an audition?
Yeah, I mean, to get ready for one,
Huh?
I look at it and I think, God, like that's got to be the single most frightening thing
Oh, it sucks, man. Nobody.
possible.
Oh, it sucks, man. Auditioning is not fun. Nobody likes doing that. But the process, again, it really, comes down to, again, like you're only in control of what, to the tip of your nose, right? So you're only in control of what you could do. And the sooner that you can kind of come to terms with that in that interaction in an audition, I think then the better that people start getting once they realize that. Once they just walk in and they go, you know what, I'm just going to go in, I'm going to do the best that I can. I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to, worry so much about being judgmental or worried what they're, what are they thinking about what I'm doing. Just go in there and do it. Confidence kind of wins out in sort of that sort of scenario. So there are times where I've loved auditions if it's, a script that I think is really fun. Sometimes there's times where it was an audition for, maybe when I first got out here for like a movie or an actor or director that I thought was really cool. So I was really nervous and, got into my head about it beforehand. I think I remember one time I think I auditioned for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, like one of the new movies or something, as one of the bad guys. And like, I could not have been more excited about trying to get into this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie because I loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles growing up. But I just bopped it, man. Just did a horrible audition. But I was just way too into my head about it, and wasn't able to put out the performance that I wanted to. So, it's a process that very much, again, it's a constant reminder that it's out of your hands, but that also can be a freeing thing if you go, well, you know what, it's out of my hands. I'm just going to do what I can do.
There is something I think that's kind of empowering about realizing that like you can only do the best you can do and not holding whatever decision someone else comes up to against yourself for it.
Yes, exactly.
But it's a mindset you have to get into. I feel like that's not the default for most people.
It's not, and that's also why in writing and working on shows was also helpful because I spent a lot of time sometimes on the other side of the casting process, watching people come in on audition and seeing how the decision process is on the other end and how little it matters. It does matter if somebody does a good performance, but that's not it. There's a number of other factors. Somebody that other people in the cast want to have on the show, somebody the director really likes. There's all sorts of other factors involved that have, what's the makeup of the rest of the cast. Like you have no idea how many times, you'd have an audition and somebody would come in and they just kill this one part, but because of everybody else that you have in the project, they just didn't fit. So even though they did a great job in that audition, they wouldn't necessarily fit in that ensemble. So, there's so much that's out of your hands when you walk into there. So you just got to serenity prayer that thing and get in there.
I mean, talking about auditions, I mean, is there, I guess you kind of answered this. So this is something I wanted to ask. You mentioned the Ninja Turtles role, but were there any other parts that you were really, really hoping to get that you didn't?
Let's see. Well, I mean, the very first audition that I went on was for Robin in Batman. It was like a giant cattle call audition in Minnesota when I was a kid. I really wanted that. I did, obviously didn't get that. Let's see.
Which Batman?
It was like, I think it was the Batman and Robin, the one that, what's his name? Chris, I forget who they ended up casting in it, but it was Chris O'Donnell. Is that his name? Or
Yeah, whatever.
I can't remember what his name is. But Yeah, I can't think of, too many other things. There'll be, a lot of, obviously there's actually, so I don't know if I can say all of it, but there's like a lot of superhero films that, I've gone out for different parts in. And I would always, obviously I would love to be in a superhero movie. I have still not auditioned for any Star Wars properties, but that would be another thing where I'd be really stoked to be in that universe.
So I mean, that seems to be a kind of a common theme. You've mentioned like comic book films, science fiction. I mean, is that the type of stuff that you're really into yourself?
Oh yeah, that's my jam. Yeah, I'm all sci-fi, but all that stuff.
What are your favorite properties, kind of in that realm?
In the science fiction world, I mean, I
Yeah.
love Star Wars, Star Trek. Big fans of all those things. But I also like any kind of the weird, Stranger Things. Anything that's just like weird. That Stephen King show, the Outsider. Is that it?
Yeah, I
It's on
think so. Yeah,
HBO.
I haven't seen it.
Love it. Like just weird, dark, odd stuff. I'm just a big fan of that. And obviously, then you have like some of the bigger things like like Star Wars or Star Trek or even the Marvel, movies or the DC ones. Like I just love those universes, and I think that's for me is very fun. I love going to amusement parks. I get into going out to the movie theater and watching the blockbuster movie. So I would love to be a part of that sometime.
Star Trek would be cool. Like it'd be cool to see you as
Yeah.
like the next captain of the
Yeah,
Enterprise.
that'd be cool to see me as a captain.
Yeah. How do we like? Who do we contact at CBS to make that happen?
I don't know. Yeah, call somebody.
Yeah, we're gonna start tracking it down. We're gonna figure this out.
Yeah,
This is
man,
the
get me
call to
on that.
action.
Yeah, CBS All Access. Come
Give
on.
give Colton Dunn the Enterprise. I'm gonna make that a fucking hashtag.
I love it.
Um, so because you've done a lot of comedy work. One thing I didn't know about you until I was prepping for the show was you were a writer on Mad TV.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I I never knew that, and I don't know how I know. What was like that show is like has like such a kind of almost like legendary status now, and I feel like as time goes on, what was working on that project specifically like?
Working on Mad TV. I mean, it
Yeah.
was amazing. I love working on Mad TV. I was there sort of let's say the last 3 or 4 years is when I was there. And Bobby Lee, Stephanie Weir, Jordan, obviously, Peel, Keegan Michael Key, Ike Barinholtz, all these guys were on the show that are just hilarious. Michael McDonald. So it was great, and it was my first real television writing job too. So it was a great entrance into that world. I think, my favorite thing working on that show was kind of going from doing a lot of sketch comedy on stages at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York or out here in LA. I always did a lot of sketch shows, and so you'd write sketches and you'd have to put together your props, for the show, and so one character, if it's a cop, they obviously didn't have a whole cop uniform. You just like have a hat and maybe a shitty star that you made or something. But working at Mad TV, obviously they have a whole department that does that. So I remember I wrote a sketch called you can probably find it online. It's called LAPD Pinatas, and it's a commercial for a store that sells pinatas that all look like minorities, but they're LAPD pinatas, and that's you get the joke, but it's a fun sketch to
Yeah.
watch. But I remember writing it and coming up with all the different pinatas that you had to see in the script. And, a lot of when you're writing it, you're just writing like funny things. But then to actually walk down one day and have to approve all of these pinatas that are, of like guys trying to run away or somebody saying like, with their hands up, was just a great experience. And that's probably what my biggest takeaway from Mad TV was learning the lesson of when you write something in this world and what the joy is to see that thing come to life in front of you.
And I feel that that's got to be an incredibly like just powerful experience.
It's really fun.
I was thinking of this when you were talking earlier about being on the other side of the casting process as a writer. But have you ever like written anything that you just really loved, and then like the performer just fucking botched it? That's not how that was supposed to be delivered. You totally didn't get what I'm doing here.
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's definitely happened. You know, you'll have table reads, which are situations too, where you'll go in a lot of times and, some actors, will take their time to look at the script or something before a table read. Some actors don't look at the script. I don't always look at a script before a table read, but I've been working in theater and obviously I know the show very well. So, I kind of get the gist of what the script is. So you're there, but then you'll get some actors who are just like, they're there just reading the lines and taking not putting a lot into it. And so sometimes you'll be sitting in a room and at a table reading, you'll hear somebody read a line. And you're like, why would you even read it that way? Like, how did you come up with that?
I wanted to touch briefly on something that to me, thinking of you, like always stands out, which is actually a smaller role you had, but that was as Parks and Rec. I think you were on like 6 episodes, something like that. But that was like your character was such a hit. Brett, yeah. Brett from Animal Control, and like. It's weird because I mean that's such a huge talented cast with so many like characters, and that is such a dedicated following. But there was like something about your character as this animal catcher that like fans still really love. Like they talk about like there's gifs of you all over the place and video clips of you from that show.
Yeah, Parks is just one of those shows that has like such a strong fan base, and it just like keeps building more and more. Obviously, like with Netflix, everything like that, like people are like coming into it. And, so I mean, of all the stuff that I've done, including Superstore, the thing I get recognized the most for is, are you that animal control guy from Parks and Recreation? Which is great because I love that character. And I shot those a while ago. So if people still think I look that way, then that's great. Then I feel like I'm holding it together all right. But
you're keeping it tight.
I'm keeping it tight. But yeah, man, those two characters, and I think it's also because there was only 5 or 6 episodes that they showed up in. Like they didn't overstay their welcome. You can only hang out with Brett and Harris for so long.
Yeah, no, it's like, and I think that was one thing that like the show did very well, was like it had these really over the top but engaging like side characters. But you see sitcoms get like mired down in those types of like oh, this person was a hit, let's throw them in the main cast.
They'll just be there every day.
Yeah, whoever was doing that at Parks and Rec, like really, I think realized like this is like a little bit as a treat, Yeah, you were like the dessert. if Amy Poehler was the main course. That sounds fucking horrible.
All right.
I am so upset that I said that out loud. Outside of your work, what are the things that you care about? What keeps you busy outside of your career?
I mean, mostly my family, has spending time with my fam. But other than that, it's a lot of work. Again, I've been, doing comedy for a long time. Like this is kind of what I do. And so, even when I'm not working, like everything that I'm trying to do is somehow connected to it, whether it's a podcast that I'm trying to develop or a podcast that I'm doing or something that I'm writing. But other than that, as far as like hobbies and stuff, I play video games. So I'll play video games, and, I got kids, so I'll hang out with them, take them to the park.
Do you have any new projects like that you're developing? Podcasts or scripts you want to talk about, or that I can get you to
Well,
talk
yeah, we
about that you're
definitely
trying to
have.
hide?
What's that?
I said, or that I can get you to talk about that you're trying to hide and keep secret still.
Well, we definitely have a pretty a cool announcement coming out. I do a podcast called Voyage to the Stars, where I play a captain of a starship. Um, but the yeah, there's going to be a pretty good announcement, I think, coming out in the next couple days. That'll be kind of cool for anybody who's checked that out. And if you haven't checked it out, it's a great time to get on board and be a day one homie of Voyage to the Stars. But yeah, I do that. I do Jam Space, which is a podcast where I freestyle rap and talk about alien encounters with my friends. So a little bit of a weird one. But yeah, other than that, just I think right now everybody's trying to ruminate on what their quarantine project is going to be. Everyone probably wants to come out of this in Hollywood like with a fully fleshed out series. So there's probably going to be, I imagine there's going to be a little lull of like new content for a little bit. And then there's just going to be an explosion of really weird creative stuff that people came up with while they were sitting in their homes, hiding from their kids.
I mean, I think I speak for the public when I say we are looking forward to it.
All right.
We're looking forward to that explosion of content. I wanted to know what is, all these different projects you've done, writing, acting, podcast. What's the project that you're proudest of?
Oh man, project that I'm proudest of. Well, I mean, gosh, man, I'm proud of so many things, I'm really proud of Key and Peele, which is a show that I wrote for. I thought that was a really great show, and I was really proud of the work we did there. I'm super proud of Superstore. It's a show that's been going on for a while. It's found a really nice, big, broad audience. I'm really proud of all the people who work on the show, the rest of the cast members, the writers, and everybody for, putting together a show that I think is just extremely relatable, and even more so by the day. But boy, yeah, I think, my shows, I guess I'm most proud of those things. And then I'm just most proud of my kids too.
It is awesome. I mean, to see that very human side of people. I like that you've mentioned your kids 4 or 5 times now. And every time you smile when you do it, which is a fairly cool thing to see.
I love my kids. They torture me, but I love them.
It's awesome to see someone feel positive about it though, because I feel like right now if you go on social media, it's just you scroll through an endless sea of people talking about fighting with their spouses or running from their children.
Man, I tell you, it is so rough. I'm so lucky. I have an amazing wife, and obviously this is enough to drive anybody crazy, right? Being stuck in your house, but I just can't imagine what some people must be going out there who, have different types of relationships, maybe newer relationships. I had a buddy of mine who just started dating somebody, and they were just moved in together just at the beginning of this. And I was like, oh, this is not going to last long. It's a tough time, and you're just stuck with somebody. A lot can go bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely can. We're getting to the end of the program, and I like to ask everyone kind of the same question. Just a bit of a pivot here.
Okay, but, let's do it.
If you were to look back at all the work you've done, everything you've done with yourself in your life, what's the thing that you really, through it all, most want to convey to other people? What's the kind of message that's been most important for you to put out there?
Yeah, that's my son. What's the message that I most want to convey to my audience? I think that it's just to laugh, just to smile at it, have some fun. Obviously, you're a testament to that. look around and what's going on in life and just enjoy it. Try not to take everything so seriously. Stand up for what you believe in. Call out bullshit if you got to call out some bullshit, but have fun with it. Everybody's just trying to do their best, and sometimes people are trying a little too hard, and you just got to enjoy it.
Well, Colton, thank you so much for coming on. That
course.
was Colton Dunn. Voyage to the Stars is the podcast, and Give Colton the Enterprise is the hashtag.
There it is.
Stay safe, man. And
all right, take care,
touch.
Alec. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.